commissioners where they were seeing an increase, and I'm sure many other towns have. I know at the state level, we took at least a third out of where we were, and it would be my hope that the commissioners would try to come as level a budget as they can to being level funded. And we have always, in the past, always been understanding that there are some things that are beyond our control. And we've always accepted that. I know we made a big move this year to try and decrease our ever escalating prices in health care, and I applaud for moving more in that direction, but I truly would be in the camp of trying to be as close to level funded as possible as last year. Thank you.
Okay. Does any other delegation member want to add anything? And what I'll do is go to the commissioners if we don't have any input. And Commissioner Solomon, you had...
Yeah, I'd just like to point out and reiterate what Representative Babson said regarding, in this case, fuel costs. We put in the budget a certain amount for fuel costs, and we had overspent that because prices just went up, and we could not do anything about that. It was beyond our control. If we go in again and level at what we think it should be, and then it goes above that, we will have a problem.
I understand that. That's when we're saying that there is between non-discretionary and discretionary. All of us are feeling the heat or the lack of heat with the amount of how much it costs to do that. And I think that what we are asking is that there, with all due diligence, what we need to do is to be sure that what we are covering is covered well, that we don't add any new projects to it. Whether I do know that I received a call from the county attorney, and his department and his assistant county attorneys there. One has just left. We trained them, and they went to Belknap because they get a $40,000 more salary payment than what we have been to them. So I think that the county attorney is going to need to have some looking at whether or not we can keep our assistant county attorneys is something that we're going to have to deal with in the subcommittee, but also here. One of the things that we have done in the past as we have gone cyclical is that there are departments that everybody kind of gets their turn, and then everybody else kind of waits until it's their turn. We have had in the past year the nursing home and the new building. We have been concentrating on that, looking at that, and I think that what happens is there are some other departments that may need to have some extra attention, and I do know that we're going to need to decide what to do about county attorney, whether or not he's got 3 assistant county attorneys, has lost one, and there is one there that is looking to leave as soon as they get a better price, which doesn't take very much going from Carroll County. The other thing that I talked with Commissioner Solomon is that we are going to be getting a comparison of where everybody else is, whether we need to or can phase it in or do something so it's reasonable, or whether what we do is just cut one deputy county, an assistant county attorney, and then we go and see what we can give to the other 2. I think that it's going to be a negotiation. I'm hoping that it will be not confrontational, because we are all here and working for the same constituency. And I think that what we need to do is to be sure that what we as a delegation want and what we are looking forward is to, this is where we are. We understand that there are some things that are beyond our control, and we may, as in Moulton Borough, I know Ossipee has done it, but Moulton Borough has probably been 3 years at a level spending at the town level anyhow for what we've been doing there. And you can only do a level funding for so long before you start losing part of your infrastructure and part of your services. So I think we need to be, be reasonable and yet err on the conservative side. Representative Fleck, then Representative McCarthy, and Babson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We don't want to beat this horse to death, I don't suppose, but just to expand on what I said before about level funding, I think the budget should reflect the CPI, and I would hope that nothing is off the table in the budgeting process. I know that some things, some expenditures may appear to be beyond our control. Perhaps they're not all beyond our control, but some are. But nevertheless, I would like to see the budgeting process focus on that level at which the CPI is projected to be at. Then we can take a look at where conditions exist over which we have no control. So I just don't like to see that happen up front. Say, well, these are blocks of cost that we can't control. We're not going to worry about them. We're just going to look at level funding for what we can control. My feeling would be, let's put it all in the mix. And then when we've achieved that point where we say, look, we cannot exist with this kind of a budget, then we can go back and we can adjust as we have to. But let's start out saying we do have a limit. Let's look at CPI. Let's see what we can do across the board. And then we'll look at where we have to make adjustments.
Okay, thank you. And before we go too much further, you're going to have to tell me how the CPI works. We have a piece of paper that's in front of us, but I'll let Representative McCarthy and Babson, and maybe you can tell me how it works so I understand that. Okay, Representative McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know you're all aware that it is the sole responsibility and the authority of the county commissioners, the county delegation, to set the pay scale for all county officers, including the county commissioners. I, for one, believe that several of the officers in the county are underpaid, in my opinion. I think that the superintendent of the jail is a consummate professional, does a wonderful job, and I think he's underpaid. If you look at some of the other people in the county and what they're getting paid, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000, $60,000 or $62,000 for the county jail isn't very much. And I believe the same holds true for the sheriff, and also the county attorney and some of his people. And I think there's room in the budget to give all of them pay raises when the time comes, and take it out of some other things that are in a budget that I believe are overloaded. But I agree. I think some of our department heads deserve pay raises.
Before I get to Representative Babson, we as a delegation meet in, when is filing? Filing is June? Yes. Is it in June that we file for? Yes. So that it is the month of June prior to filing, or it could even be the end of March, that we as a delegation will sit and we will determine the pay raises for our elected officials in the county. And so that will be coming up end of probably middle of May. I can't remember when we did it, but we do it soon enough so that whoever wants to run realizes of the officials find out what it is their salary will be. So, Representative Babson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Back when we were working on this budget, this current budget, I made a motion to increase the assistant attorney's pay, and it was voted down by this body. I think what we're seeing now is what I said would happen. We're training them and they're leaving, which leads me to a comment that we got probably 3 or 4 months ago at a commissioners meeting, that last year the average time from being arrested to going to court was, I believe, 53 days.
I don't remember that.
But this year it's running 235 days. And that's 2/3 of a year sitting over there, and I would like to know How much of that is because we don't have the attorneys to push the cases forward, and how much of that is the court system not working on Fridays? But I don't have much sympathy for somebody that's guilty and going to have the time taken off at the other end. But my goodness, for someone that's found innocent, sat over there for 235 days, that's
Okay. And I
pathetic.
think for whoever is with the county attorney, who is the chair of the county attorney, that one of the things that we should also do, look at the time and why it is done, and to be sure that we are not mandating something from the state legislature that has put a clink in the works that makes it so that it is downshifted. I know that there was Senate Bill 400, 300, 200, whichever was the one that was, it was on our violent offenders and how they would be out being looked at and overtaken. No, not overtaken.
Taken over by.
Yeah, that they were oversight. There was oversight by the community backup we have, and I know that we had worked on that issue, but I don't know how it was resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And we may have to look at that for what we're going. I think it was Senate Bill 500
It was.
when we went through, and that just kind of blew up with the amount of money was being sent to the county. So it's not always what we have done here or what has happened. Sometimes we get caught because of how the vote goes in Concord. So that would be something that we need to check out and look at that. So, okay, are there any other comments? And if I could get, yeah, Representative Umber.
This is just a quick comment. I thought that the courts were back to 5 days a week.
I don't know, because I
think
have
that-
not been watching.
I believe that they are.
Yeah.
And if they're not scheduled for 5 days a week, I wish somebody would let me know, because that's how they were funded.
Okay,
So
so we'll look in.
if they're not, then I need to know that.
Okay.
So I can pass it on.
So we can find that out. So, let's see. Is it all right if I ask Representative Fleck to explain to me the CPI? Because I now have percentages here that I don't understand. Could you just run through, you know how to do it? Seeing that you're the guru.
No, I'm
Or
not.
who knows how to explain the
I'm
CPI?
really not, but we've looked at this through for school boards and others, and we normally do look at the Northeast Consumer Price Index, which is focused on this region rather than just the national. And I think we've also known that as families that the cost of living is not flat, that we've experienced an increase in cost of living. And I think this is reflecting that, at least in the month-by-month changes. So, but this is probably the best thing that we have that's available to us to project what the increases in operation should be over the next year. You know, we don't know specifically that it would be, but it gives us a pretty good indication, and I think that's what we should use as the indicator.
Okay, Representative Umberger?
Yeah. One of the things that I don't like about the Northeast Urban Region Consumer Price Index is that it is heavily geared to Boston and the Massachusetts area. And as a result, the Northeast region is generally quite a bit higher than across the board. I mean, than the national one. And I think myself, and I have argued this many times, that Carroll County is more reflective of the national CPI than it is of the urban. Whereas southern New Hampshire, which, they have a lot of people back and forth between across the border and wages and all of that kind of stuff, more closely reflects the Northeast urban. Because I think the key thing that we need to, the key word in here is not the Northeast region, but the key word is urban. And so that's the kind of thing that concerns me about